It's a task that's evolving that doesn't directly need you always per se, but it needs to get done in your business anyway. Hey there and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Now my goal at this video is to be able to walk you through the top tips that I have when it comes to outsourcing. Now if this is your first time on my channel, my name is Lai Lacaba. I've been working from home since I was 15 years old and now run my own outsourcing company here in the Philippines, and I post videos every Sunday and Thursday on how to work from home and out of the business from home, so make sure to hit the subscribe button right there so you don't miss any of my videos. Now as a person who's been in the outsourcing industry for the last 10 years, I've learned a thing or two of basically what are the right ways that you can outsource. Now, if you're someone who is thinking of outsourcing, you're thinking of hiring a few people overseas, or you've done this for a while, these are going to be the top tips that I have that I've learned from my own mistakes when it comes to hiring and managing people online. Now, if you're still debating if outsourcing is for you, I recommend that you guys go to 2xu.com/scorecard and take our Scale You scorecard, where we'll basically assess where you are at when it comes to scaling your business and give you clarity on what to do next. Now, the first tip that I have when it comes to outsourcing, and it is a big one, is that you need to know to outsource the right tasks. Now, I've talked about this a bajillion times on this channel, that it is essential that you start with what problem is the person that you're hiring for solving for you in your business. When you are hiring, you are looking to solve some sort of problem that you have. So it could be that your social media management might not be as good as it should be. That's the problem that the person is coming in. You're hiring them so that they can solve it. So you always want to start with knowing what tasks can I give or outsource to someone that could actually help my business. Now I have a whole video on how to know what tasks to outsource, but basically you want to make sure that these are tasks that are repeatable, that needs to get done in your business, that can then expand to something more. So the example that I just used, which is social media management, which is one of the top tasks that people outsource anyway, it starts with a repeatable task of being able to post on social media, right? Then you can launch a campaign, you can launch a product with that person. It's a task that's evolving, that doesn't directly need you always per se, but it needs to get done in your business anyway. The next outsourcing tip that I have is to set clear objectives or have clarity. Now I've said this once and I'll say it over and over again. When you are the employer, it is your job, your responsibility to give your employees the clarity of what they're going to be doing moving forward. It is your job to give them the goal of where you want to go, of what they're going to accomplish working with you. Again, this is something that they can't guess from just a job description from when you hired them. It has to be you setting what the goals are clearly and giving them that clarity to keep moving forward. When you're outsourcing, you guys are probably not going to be on the same time zone. You're not having the same work schedule. So you have to keep in mind that you have to set that clarity with them at the very start. And of course, as you work with them, you're checking in on their goals. You're making sure that they actually do what they're supposed to be doing and making sure that they have the clarity to keep working even when you're not online. The next tip that I have for you, and this is something that again, I'll say it once, I'll say it over and over again, is to create documentation. Create standard operating procedures that will help you and your outsourced team or outsourced employees be able to repeat the same results over and over again. And you guys can check out, again, the whole video where I talk about this right here, but basically you want to make sure that there's some sort of documentation about how things are done in the business. Now in the last tip I just talked about, you have to show them what the goal is. Now it's the responsibility to document how to actually get to the goal or how they've gotten to the goal before. So this could be as simple as making sure that there is a standard operating procedure on how to post on Facebook, how to write captions for Facebook. Basically try to look and take apart the different tasks that your employees are doing and making sure that there's some sort of documentation. So in case that they get sick or they have to leave because life or something goes wrong, there is a documentation that you can go through and review to see if things were done right or be able to take over that person's job as needed. So there's some sort of security blanket and also a way for you guys to see where things are at inside of the process. Next thing is to consider all outsourcing costs. Now, what I mean by this is, yes, when you're outsourcing, there is reduced cost because you don't have to get an office, pay for electricity, pay for other bills that would usually come with an office. You don't have to pay for equipment usually, and you don't have to pay for any allowances like transport allowances for your employees because they're all working from home. However, you do need to also count for the cost of them being all online. Whatever tool that you need, and I have a full list of the top tools that you need when you're outsourcing, but basically you want to also look at what are the communication platforms that I'll need to pay for, what are the different software that my team needs to be able to use, and lining that all up. You want to be prepared as the business owner that yes, it might be a lower cost to outsource, but what are the other costs that I have to really think about to be able to make this work? Other costs is just training. Like, how are you going to be able to provide training for your employees? It could be an in-person training, which means the cost is going to be your time. It could be a course or a book that you need to buy, or is it just an ongoing resource where they're going to be paid to study or to train? You have to consider these costs so you're more prepared to cover them as you hire more people online. Next outsourcing tip that I have for you is to make sure that you filter your applicants. So what I mean by this, as you start hiring online or as you've hired online, you need to learn how to filter the right applicants. Now again, a whole video series on that, and the first video that I really recommend is the 7 hiring mistakes that people make, but basically watching for different telltale signs if this person is going to work out with you or not. So for example, one of the tips that I usually have is to make sure that you have some sort of Easter egg on your job ad, for example, where you make sure that they've used a specific subject line or some sort of keyword inside of their application letter to make sure that they actually read your job ad and they're not just mass applying for different jobs. They actually read through the job ad and understood what you need from them instead of just sending it to whatever email that they can find online. So make sure that you can filter them right off the bat to save yourself the headache of hiring someone who will probably leave or doesn't even have the skills that you need for them to be able to work with you. Now, once you have good applicants, you've now hired someone, the next tip that I have for you is to make sure to train your employees. Now, I've already talked about this a little bit when I talked about costs, but you really want to look at what are the pieces of training that your new hire or your employees need to be able to keep going. There's always going to be some evolution of the skills that they have, especially in these times. So you want to make sure that you line up what are the different things that they need to know and learn about your industry, about their skills. And this includes soft skills. Now, I do have a video on training that your virtual assistant needs, and I talk about the different soft skills that they would need to develop to be able to work with you effectively. And the main one is even being able to give and receive feedback. When you're working online, you really need to make sure that they have this training of being able to give you feedback as they need to, and for you to effectively be able to give them feedback. Which leads me to my next tip, which is create communication systems. What I mean by communication systems is create ways that you can routinely check in with your employees without much effort. Now, for us here at 2XU, we actually have a daily report where all of the assistants give us an overview of what was done and what's going to be done tomorrow for that day. We also have a weekly planning agenda where we plan out the week, and we have a monthly check-in where it's a coaching call where we see where they're at. With these communication lines, we are able to see if there's anything that they might need or a bottleneck that they might be going through that we don't see as the employer, to make sure that they can get things done. Now, as the employer, it's your responsibility to set what is the right cadence for you, what's the right pace for you when it comes to communicating with your employees. So then both of you have that clarity of how can they suggest things, how can they give you feedback, how can they move forward if they're stuck on something. Having these communication lines or communication routines set in place will help smooth over whatever it is that you guys might be struggling with. Next tip that I have for you is check your resources, or just simply keep in mind what your resources are. Now, this could be software, this could be training that you have, this could be just information that you have on your employees, this could be just the resources that they have access to as well. What are the different things that they could tap to? What's a tool that they can use? What's something that they can research so that they're comfortable, that they will spend a vast amount of time on? Basically, keep track of the digital resources that your employees have and where they're at, how many that you you have, how many seats do you have, for example, for a Microsoft Office team, just making sure that you have a list and documentation of where things are at in your business so you can easily give resources to your employees as they need them. Next is to have an effective note-taking system. Now, what I mean by this is have a way, and this definitely connects to creating documentation in the third tip, where create a way that everyone knows how to take notes inside of the company, especially when you're having digital meetings. The action steps are clear after the meeting, and when to report, when to escalate things. Basically have a way that people can take notes so things are still well documented even when things are moving really fast. Now, the biggest tip that I have when it comes to outsourcing is to care about them, care about your employees. What I mean by this is nowadays, when it comes to working from home, anyone can kind of find a job easily anywhere, but it's rare to find an employer who actually cares about them, about their well-being, about their goals, especially as you try to build your company. You want people who actually care about your business, so to be able to have that, you have to show care with them as well. They can't be just a one-sided thing where they're giving you and your business their all, but they're not getting anything back. It's so important that you build a relationship with your employees so things can work out in the long run. So even if they do leave, they leave on good terms. They're able to even recommend people or give you a recommendation as the employer on different sites, or be able to give you testimonials of how well you took care of them for, of course, future applicants who are gonna come in. You want to make sure that you actually just even ask of, hey, how are you doing? Or do you need help with anything? Asking those two questions are already powerful enough to be able to show your employees like, hey, I want to involve you guys in building this, because chances are, again, if you're working online, there's plenty of opportunities out there, and you want to make sure that you keep the ones that you actually really like. So make sure that you show your care in some way with your employees. Now, if you guys like this video and if you found some important tips, make sure to hit the thumbs up button right there and comment below what other tips that you might have when it comes to succeeding working online. Now, if you guys still haven't, make sure to hit the subscribe button right there so you don't miss any videos every Sunday and Thursday on how to work from home and how to have a business from home, which you guys can check out the playlist right here and the latest video right here. I hope you guys have an awesome day. Remember that small steps matters, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!